Hi, everyone, and welcome to Between Two Coaches. We're on a mission to make fitness more human. Snark sold separately. I'm Amanda, and I'm joined by my co host,
It's Nick.
Nick.
I did it.
I
It's
thought I'd
Nick, and
change it up.
we will never get this intro right, but it's because, guys, we're coming to you on a Wednesday instead of our normal Tuesday night, so we're more awake and ready to jam. And so, thank you all for joining us. We have a great episode today. We're going to talk about anxiety and pressure in athletics. We're going to give out some listener love, answer a question, and air some grievances on a cheese product that we are not a fan of.
I have to admit, it's not that I'm not a fan. I'm just wondering how we got to this place that we're putting it
Whoa.
on bagels. All right, we'll get there when we
We'll
get
get
there. I
there.
think
That's
I
it.
think we're getting ahead.
I already did a tease. You don't need to tease the tease.
I'm sorry. I should have stopped.
But first, we're going to talk about Amanda.
Mm.
You ran a mini 10K, and the pictures were awesome. It looks like you had the best time, and it was a secret to everyone except for me. So, why don't you tell us about your amazing time in the women's only New York City MasterCard? I think it's MasterCard still, right? Mini
Yes.
10K.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was offered a bib for this event prior to RBC Brooklyn Half. And I have never ran it before, but I have spectated. It is just a couple of blocks from my apartment here in the city. So I've always seen it. And I knew that it would be a fun experience and that I was not interested in racing it. I haven't done any speed work since the Brooklyn Half, which was a month ago. A
Yeah.
little less than that. I haven't done any because I just don't feel like it. We're not going to do that yet. What I will say though was I took the mini 10K as an opportunity to again have fun, and I made it a part of my long run. So I kind of made it a progression long run, if you will, and it was the best. I
Yeah.
had a couple of people on the course who just by chance had asked me if I wanted to spectate tomorrow, being Friday, and I was like, funny thing about that is I'm running in it. And then next thing you know, I had my homie Carlos. He made a sign for me, and
Aw.
a couple of my Brooks Running Collective pals on the course to cheer. And what a great experience to not have to be concerned with any race day anxiety, which I admittedly don't feel as I know as heavy as other people do because of what Nick had said earlier. I am not one to share my training purposely. I'm very private about that. And I think it will lend itself to our conversation later. It does protect my peace and keep me focused on being a part of the experience. And that's exactly what I did
Yes.
on Saturday.
Well, it was awesome. I loved all the photos. I love
Thank you.
how you talked about doing a race for fun because you know what, people? We can absolutely do that. That's a thing. It exists in this world to do
I
races
survived it.
for fun, and it is an enjoyable thing. And also, I love how you tied in the topic of the episode into your recap of the mini 10K because Amanda is always grinding. She is always making things sync up. It is incredible. And that's why you are the best co-host a co-host could ever have. I think
You
that's how we
better
would say it.
stop. You better stop. But you did bring up I did get this question. I think you had put it on our outline to go over. It's called the mini 10K because this is actually the mini skirt,
Yeah.
which is the sign of, or at least they took it as a sign of women's liberation when they had started this race 52 years ago. And it is such an empowering event to be a part of. I highly recommend it. 12 out of 10. Run that race.
Yeah, I love that it's a women's only race. It gets professionals, it gets, all types of runners, and it just looks like such an amazing experience. I definitely want to spectate it at some point. Maybe next year. Yeah. But yeah, so you had a really fun weekend and some fun stuff going on this week that you said we can't talk about, so we're not going to talk about. But just kidding. But so yeah, for me, I I did a long run, my longest run in like a while. I did 16 miles, and I wanted to tell about it a little bit because I wanted to make the never-ending reminder that coaches also, we make mistakes too in our long runs. And so I ran with an athlete, and it went on, a little bit longer than maybe it would for me by myself, which is fine. But I really didn't respect the fact that it's hot out and, the need for water as much as I did. And so really got burnt up out there, Amanda. I luckily have this Apple Watch, and I stopped by Royal Farms and got myself a Gatorade mid run with a little Apple Pay action. I think if I didn't do that, it would have been pretty rough. And so, I we started early, and I thought I would be fine drinking some water beforehand. And like there were water fountains on the course, but they were all early on. And I thought I'd be like, oh, I'll make it. And a lesson to me that it's summer and I will not make it. And I won't make that mistake again. But, we all make mistakes, and it doesn't matter what pace I was running. It was getting to me because it was hot and it was a long time running.
We've all been in a place where we wish we made different choices. But you did the right thing. You said, okay, this is going to be a problem. I better hop on it. And lessons are learned. This is how lessons are learned. We
I wouldn't
don't
learn
learn
it.
the lessons
Yeah.
in the every successful experience. We have to make these errors.
Yeah. And that's why I do it. I do it so I can make an error and then I can learn. So I knew it was wrong, and then I did it. And then I was like, oh, look what I learned. Because I wanted to learn something on Saturday, and so I did. Is that a thing people do?
On a Saturday, I try to avoid learning at all costs. Any days off, I don't want to learn. I don't feel like learning.
But yeah.
That's great. Okay.
So but I covered the distance, and I'm happy, and I'm healthy,
Congratulations.
and I'm rolling again, and I'm trying to navigate having space for running in this life right now with a lot of great things going on. So
Yes, it's all stress on the body. So all the great things are good things, but they take up time and energy and resources from Nick. So you got to feed him.
feed those resources and feed me that Olipop, right?
Not quite what we were doing, but now we're doing it.
Now we're doing it. Nailed it. Perfect segue. That's a tregue if you ask me.
I don't know. I don't know if it's a Tregway. We'll have to ask her. So we have some listener love to give out. Celeste Chance says, all that Amanda and Nick bring to the table, knowledge and skill wise. Plus, it feels like I'm hanging out with my besties and
Aw.
part of the conversation with some literal LOLs during their episodes. 100 out of 10.
That's not even possible.
Is that a function? 100 out of 10 recommend to runners, athletes, and fitness enthusiasts of all levels.
That's so sweet. We love math problems that cannot be solved.
Yeah, shout out.
Oh, we're
to
doing the
you.
hearts. I can't do it. Wait.
Does it come through?
No.
Nothing will appear, right?
For everyone not watching at home, we were making the shape of a diamond, but it was actually a heart.
I was making the heart.
Oh, then I did it wrong.
Okay. Well, that's shocking. All right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
love that.
Well, thank you so much, SLS Chance. It was a sweet review. And thank you always for everyone who puts in reviews or ratings. It's very appreciated, and we love sharing them and reading them.
Yes. And that's you said it correctly. That's our review. But we have to do our listener love question as well. We have a listener love question, so why don't we handle that next?
Let's do it. So I will read it because I am good at reading. You mentioned that Chicago Marathon does the marathon the best. What about their race? Do they do so well? Well, we've both run Chicago, right? I've been there 2 times. I'll be there again this October because it's a fun race to spectate. So I said this, I think, on one of the earlier episodes. And what I love about Chicago is it is a major. Well, first we can start all the way back in just entry. The lottery is a bit more generous than other lotteries. There is an ability to get in if you happen to run a certain time that is very generous compared to other races. And it's simply just click a button, buy a date, and you get an entry. So they're very generous with like helping entries get in if you have met criteria. Other races are more, if you're the elite of the elite, you might steal a spot. and otherwise, do all these other checks and balances, like right now, 11 million of our races that are sold out in 5 minutes, and you might get a chance in. Just getting in is easier and feels better for the community for what is a major marathon. And then Chicago, it is very logistically easy compared to others. Like I stayed downtown. You can walk literally from your hotel 5, 10, whatever it is, 20 minutes. There's a lot of hotels right around where it starts. You just walk in, there's a checkpoint, you check through it, and you're in. And it took 25 minutes from hotel to get in versus some of these other majors where you're bussed across the country, get on a small aircraft,
New York City Marathon, we're talking to you,
or get on a boat that has to go through the Arctic Ocean and traverse icebergs to get to the start line. Like it's just Chicago does it well in the sense that they can really it takes a lot of the anxiety and pressure. Wow, look at that theming, guys, theming off of race day, because you can just get there. And even if you don't stay downtown, like it's easy to get downtown somewhere where you could walk to it, as long as you have a person or someone who has a car or an Uber or a phone or whatever. So it's very accessible to the community, and that's really what I love about it, because a lot of races add this extra pressure and anxiety before it even starts that just causes athletes to already spiral.
Aligned. I think everything you said was what I would say. I did not end up staying downtown. Myself and an athlete stayed outside of Chicago, and it was incredibly easy to get to. It was still it's like a 15-minute Uber ride, and logistics were great. I actually ran into Elizabeth Scott over at Running Explained.
Oh, shout out
to get in. Yeah, shout out. So we were walking in together, and we were like, "Damn, this is a dream."
The paparazzi must have been everywhere. Look, getting you guys photos.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I think Elizabeth had hired me on her team, and that was the first time we met. So that was great. And I appreciate, of course, the course itself is very generous in that it is pancake flat.
Yep.
And the folks come out to cheer.
A lot of cheering.
Had a good time.
And I left off that, like, unlike other races, everyone starts early in the morning. There's none of this like, oh, we're going to start at 10 because I'm not going to make up the reason that I don't believe TV coverage or other things, because Chicago can do it and it's in the central, time zones. They start at 7:30 and waves go off in, I think it's 30-minute increments, but I think there's no wave later starting than 9. Don't quote me on that. But it's none of this 12 p.m. bullshit. None of this 11:30 BS of you're starting and the sun is, at its hottest point and good luck, for your race. It is, we get you out and you're done and go live the rest of your wonderful Sunday. So even on those hotter days, like if it happens to be hot at that time of year, you can still survive at Chicago versus like if it's a hot day in New York City or Boston, like you're screwed.
They do it well.
They do it well. Right. Shout out Chicago. Send us bibs, sponsor us, whatever you send us a t-shirt. Actually, that'd be cool.
Yeah, we'll forward this to your people.
Yeah, they'll see it.
They do have good shirts every year.
They really do. Point. Actually, that's why I wanted
really
it. Yeah.
Good point.
But yeah, thank you so much for the question. I wanted to expand on that, and I'm glad I got to, because I really do. Big shout out for Chicago. Love the major. Love when people do it. Not even for the course, for all the other reasons. But the course is cool.
Yes. And coming from someone who does not like large course races, and I've put my foot down a couple of years ago, I've decided that I'm a small course kind of girl. Long-term relationship with smaller courses, they still do it right. So
that's your basically saying on this podcast, you're going to run Chicago 2025. That's what I heard.
No, I'm okay.
Everyone hold her to it.
I'm a one and done kind of girl. I don't need repeats. Yeah, it's not me.
That's fine. But yeah, you can hold it to it.
Of course, unless Chicago, if you're here with us in the room and you need me there, I'd figure it out.
Yeah, at least to spectate.
True.
All right. Well, thank you for that question, and it is from Christian Troy. So thank you, Kristen. And yeah. But Amanda, you mentioned earlier that we might be grieving about something?
Yeah, I'm grieving the loss of the traditional tempeh and Philadelphia cream cheese. I'm grieving the loss. I have nothing against cottage cheese as an institution. What I will say is that, and to be frank, I have never tried cottage cheese, and it's because I look at it and I have feelings about how it looks, and I'm not really like that, but I don't really need to add it to my life. I don't discriminate with cheeses. I don't have an anti-cheese problem. American cheddar, provolone, Munster, Parmesan, give it to me. But I don't, that one, I'm like, I don't need it. So I put out a question on my Instagram last week asking for everyone's bagel order. And a fun fact about me, my first job was working in the bagel shop in Queens, New York.
The bagel shop, the one.
Yes, yes. And to this day, this was 20 years ago. It's one of the hardest jobs I've ever had. Had to be there at 5 a.m. making the bagels. Wasn't really allowed very much to make them per se. I was a little young. I think we were doing enough things in there that I probably shouldn't have been a part of. But I've tried every kind of bagel combination. So I'm always curious what other people find joy in when they go to the bagel shop. What do they order? And so you get your regular answers. You get your everything bagel with cream cheese.
That's the one.
That's the one for you?
Or actually cinnamon raisins where it's at. I like that one.
Yes, yes. Cinnamon raisin. We have folks who put bacon, egg, and cheese. We have folks who were submitting lox, onion, and schmear. I have a lot of New Yorkers
And New
on.
Jerseyans who are getting that Taylor
Hell
ham,
yes.
egg, and cheese, not pork roll. Because we're gonna. If you're a pork roll fan, get out of here.
Get
It's
immediately
it's
unfollow.
Taylor ham, and you can fight in my DMs. I'm happy to handle it.
It will be handled. And then I had a few, and by the way, I got like for me, this is a lot. Like getting between 50 and 60 responses on something is a lot for me. So I'm like, why am I seeing people respond with cottage cheese on the bagel? So now I'm questioning where I came from.
Everything about yourself.
I'm like, wait a second. They have cottage cheese at your bagel store?
They
That's
probably bring
not.
their own.
So then I got some clarifications. People were saying no, and a lot of people not from New York. So I will say that, and not to be elitist, but I'm going to be elitist.
Yeah.
I'm going to take your bagel opinion with a grain of everything but the bagel salt. So I was like, oh, you're making this at home, which now I'm like, I understand. Like you've combined some things you love and you're making it at home. But nevertheless, I'm grieving the loss of tradition.
Yeah. We're grieving here. I mean, like, so first off, big fan of cheese. Not a fan of any cheese that comes from a cottage. So out on that, right? Like, that's, I mean, this name alone, like, I'm not a big cottage guy already. And like, if your cheese is made in a cottage, like, consider me a villa cheese guy. That'd be a little better. Like, but not cottages. Like, so I'm out there.
Right.
And
Like,
then,
or a port cheese, a port wine cheese. I'm here for that as
oh
well.
yeah, because it's made in a port, like where boats
Obviously.
are. Yeah. So starting there, and then it's this cauliflower thing all over again, where we took this vegetable and we're like, you know what, it could be everything, and a lot of people are like, it cannot, but
It
they're like,
cannot.
you don't
It
know,
can't be
try me,
everything.
I will turn it into pizza crust, and I'm like, no, you will turn dough into pizza
What
crust.
are you doing in a gnocchi? What are you doing? She just leave her in her original form.
So I hope we don't go on this. If cottage cheese starts becoming pizza crust, I'm going to lose it. But someone will try.
They're putting it in the oven. That's what I'm hearing from the folks on the talk tick. They're putting it in
The
the
oven? No, this is not a cheese that would go in the oven. This is a cheese made for scooping into the garbage.
Cheese
Right into
at
the garbage.
all costs. Protect cheese at all costs. We will not allow it.
Nope.
All right.
That's
If
that
you've been
bullshit.
here for that's that bullshit. It's 21 minutes in. We salute you. Only the strong have survived. I think it's time we talk about our topic today, which is the anxiety that cottage cheese has been giving us. No, it's the anxiety and pressure in fitness, in running, in athletics. So what do we mean by anxiety and pressure?
Yeah, so whenever I think of that, I think of the poet. I won't say his name, but you'll know. And his quote is, "His palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. There's vomit on his sweater already. Mom's spaghetti." Right, and
Yes,
so
yes, that's the young Marshall.
yep,
The
the
young
young
Marshall.
Marshall. Yep. So I think of that when I think of anxiety and pressure, right? And so what I really mean is like, so it's when, you're approaching, first off, you feel anxious about, people feel anxious about doing workouts, people feel anxious about races, people like before you're even there, before you're even in it, you're just unsure, feeling like, I don't want to do this, I'm going to fail, like feeling and feelings around it where you're already defeated or already against it, because you're feeling this immense pressure you're putting on yourself that doesn't need to be there, right? And so we think of scenarios where you're maybe causing yourself a panic attack, or maybe you're causing yourself to really stay away from these things in fitness that probably at some point in your life you actually liked, you actually enjoyed, but through fitness, through sport, you've maybe found ways to put extra sauce on it, extra feelings around it that are now causing you to sort of now not feel like you want to do it, right? No one really starts running and they're like, I don't want to do a workout because that sounds like, maybe they do. No, most people don't come into the sport and they're already anxious about the things in the sport. They don't really know. You sort of get that anxiety by the words around you, others, or just the feeling of doing it and feeling like, you might not achieve what you need, right? So when I think of anxiety, and I'll talk about my experience a little later on it, but like it really just it resonates through your feelings and how you can approach the things that you want to do but have this extra layer too.
First of all, feelings are fake. Okay, episode's done.
Yeah, we did it.
Just kidding. Feelings are not fake. But in a lot of ways we make them bigger into real things that don't exist. And we create scenarios in our mind. So for me, anxiety and pressure in sport or exercise, it can be tied to several factors, fears, doubts, insecurities that we have. And the success isn't achieved by always landing the W or the PR. The most successful people I know in running, in fitness, in sport aren't afraid of falling on their face. And so the lesson there, like we were talking about earlier, ends up being the win for them. But for when it comes to feelings and identifying what feelings make, trying to phrase this correctly, like we can't be afraid of feeling the feeling, if
Yeah,
that makes sense. Like we have to actually lean into it
yeah,
and continue to expose ourselves to the thing that is giving us anxiety and pressure.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I think you nailed it too, right? Like talking about fears, talking about like being, when that is stopping you from trying and stopping you from growing, right? And so the downside of it, and we're going to talk about that too, is like, when you let anxiety and pressure drive your fitness journey, you let fear drive it, you let doubt drive it. These are just things. These are just part of being a human being, and they aren't things that we need to actively avoid stuff from because of those feelings. In fact, we should lean into them, like you said, more, and be accepting of, hey, this is something that I am worried about. I am scared about, like, me starting a podcast with someone I don't know. But here I am, and we're doing it, and we're 11 episodes in. So, like, leaning into those feelings is the growth. Like, you will never grow if you don't try. You'll never grow if you
We'll
don't.
never grow if you don't troll.
Yeah, that's I actually heard that somewhere. I don't know where.
That's Confucius.
Yeah,
So, yeah, so you were talking about also that you've experienced this before.
I did twice.
When did twice?
Ooh, two
When
times.
was the
Well,
first time?
so I had started running in my freshman year and of high school. and didn't really know what I was doing. Wanted to be a pole vaulter and javelin thrower, and was told you're a distance runner by the track coach. And I was like, I don't know what that means. And then we started running. And so I didn't really commit much my freshman year, but that summer I committed more. I connected with the coach who had the team, and we would do like summer running and training. And then my sophomore year, I had a lot of success not knowing what I was doing. I was just like, had no clue about anything, right? I was just, they go run the 2 mile or the 3,200, go run the 3,200. And I'd be like, cool. And I'd place pretty high and I'd run a good time. And they'd be like, oh, cool. But nothing was racing through my mind. It didn't matter who was in the race or what the times were or anything. I was just running a lap and I was in the moment, right? And I came back my junior year, and then all of a sudden, everything that felt easy my sophomore year felt impossible. I was now, well, this time, this place, I need to be this place in the team. I need to, help the team do this. I need to run these numbers. Workouts started crumbling. My confidence started crumbling. My race results obviously started crumbling. And I went backwards a ton that year because of all this pressure and anxiety I was putting on myself around everything. Because now I had this no, I knew what something should be, and I wasn't there. And so my whole junior year was really just, I didn't PR once. Every race was backwards. Most of my results were terrible. And, I got at, like, it took me most of my senior year to break out of it, when I just sort of, like, it was my last season. And then it was like, this is the end of my running career. So, like, it was just like YOLO. And then all of a sudden, like, I started having success again, because like, it was like, I was like, this is the end. So why does it matter, right? And like, I lived through that, and then I started back again in 2011 and sort of did the same thing again, where I was starting running again just to enjoy it, just to lose weight, just to have something in my life that I could do exercise sport wise. But all I did is compare back to college, to my college and high school years, and everything was pressure induced. And it was, oh my god, I have to run this fast, I have to win, I have to run this result, I have to do this. And for 4 years, 3 years, about, it slowed me down a ton, just trying to live back to those old moments. Like, I'd get to workouts and I'd be so anxious, can I run this, can I do it? And workouts would crumble like halfway through. It always, same spot, it would always fall apart. So then I'd start worrying about not doing workouts. I'd worry about not running with certain people because I couldn't keep up, or all those doubts and fears were there. And it slowed me down so much until I just accepted, hey, just run with other people, just try, just set yourself out there and see what happens. And so both those times, it was a lot of like that anxiety and pressure that other times never existed. When it wasn't there, I was felt limitless.
That's crazy. And I guess it's not crazy to me in that it exists, anxiety and pressure exists, because I'm very familiar with those feelings outside of sport, mainly at least when I was young. Because at the time when I had shared in my the last episode that my mom had pulled me out of dance and put me in martial arts to build my confidence. She had seen, I don't have any recollection of being that young and feeling insecure in my body or in my ability, or but she saw it, right? So I don't have a recollection of experiencing those things around sport. However, anxiety and pressure for me has come up. I've kept my personal races and my personal fitness goals private purposely. And it's because of what I do for a living is so on stage, in literally in front of everyone, and the process in which I've become a fitness professional, teaching classes as well as training private clients, and being a run coach is actually the least of me being on stage,
Yeah.
is a really anxiety provoking experience, especially when you start out. The process in and of itself, the pressure to grab the attention of a room when you are in your second, third, fourth, fifth round of auditions to be an instructor for a large fitness brand, for example, is something that made me question my own ability. Do I really want to be here? Do I actually have what it takes? Is what they're saying true? And sometimes, yes, it was true. The areas that involved my skill set, right? The areas I could grow in and fine tune. But then there are other things that, unfortunately, in the fitness industry that I was critiqued on, that I had no business of being critiqued on, like my body size, not being taken seriously
Nope.
as an instructor. Like that's that bullshit. That had nothing to do with anything that I could change. So it's just interesting to me to hear your perspective as your personal journey through your running and how it shows up for you, or how it did show up for you, and how it's shown up for me is it's personal but yet it's not.
Yeah, no, that's very interesting. And hearing that perspective from the other side, I think is great to hear from like this perspective of we all kind of deal with this, and it's not just in sport; it's in life and how it affects us and how it shows up. But like I think at the end of the day, like it's there and it's important to take note of it. When I finally got to take more note of it is when I really made strides. So when I was just like, well, I'm unfit or I'm worried or I'm scared, and I wasn't mindful around these feelings, like, and just forcing it more, you just like quicksand, you just sort of sink more, right? Like when you're dealing with anxiety and pressure and you're just trying to like claw your way out or force it more, just run harder, just try more, dig deeper, do more exercises. All that ends up happening is you just fall deeper in the hole. You don't just snap out of it. There's this mental side that's going on and needs to be addressed and it needs to be figured out or you will not get through it.
It also shows up, I meant to say this earlier, but in the gym environment. For me, it's entering a gym just because of my profession early on was really when I had not been a I was a gym goer in an all women's gym, and I always felt safe in that setting. Lucille Roberts, throw what you know. And so when I joined a gym for the first time, I did feel comfortable in that space. And I never felt like I quote unquote didn't belong. But I know so many of us have a lot of anxiety about just entering a class or just showing up on the gym floor and being near a squat rack as a woman, or what have you, as a runner, right? Maybe we feel like we don't belong there. And I think that initially I probably, in certain settings that I felt less like, what am I doing here? Do I belong here? I think I lied to myself enough that I knew as much, if not more, than the boys on these floor. So I'm gonna quote unquote fake it till I make it. And I think that the other area that can be very anxiety provoking, now that we were talking about it earlier, and so it just dawned on me that this would be something that could cause anxiety for me, which is why I choose not to participate in it as much, is the racing environment, especially road races. And they're nerve wracking for me, not because I'm worried about my times or my splits, or oh no, somebody's gonna think I'm not fast if I don't hit this PR, or what have you. But because I find, at least in the road racing community, and especially the world majors or large courses, that the I'm really sensitive to the energy of everyone else around me. And I sense that between people, I'm laughing because I remember observing people just this past weekend at the mini 10K, like the the constant looking at the Garmin, making sure it was synced with the Strava. I was just watching people, and no one was, and throughout the course they were like this, at the start line they were like this. It was just like they were hopping up and down. They were just trying to get the energy out of them, and I was very sensitive to that. I didn't feel, fortunate, I didn't feel any nerves about it. I really did enjoy myself. That is something that does create some secondhand anxiety for me.
Yeah, it's surrounding yourself, and so outside of the race environment, but even who you go to the race with or who you hang out, it's like your crew, right? Surrounding yourself with
Yeah.
people. If they are anxious about everything, it's going to rub off on you. I tend to be anxious a little often, but I've gotten better at it. But Kelly used to always like kind of absorb some of my anxiety around things and like have to calm me down. And but she's very calming force, so it's helpful if she was super anxious too, and both of us were super anxious walking around all the time. Probably a lot of things.
Shout out to Nick's wife.
Yeah,
Shout out.
shout out.
She's a real one.
Shout out to her. We would probably be struggling to get a lot of things done. So a lot of her time is just calming me down. But, same thing with exercise and fitness, having those people, having a coach that helps you, calm down. And that's what we're going to talk to too here of how we can help. But yeah, I think being around it can also help absorb it. Even if you feel like you're not feeling it that time, all of a sudden you're absorbing it for others. And now you're feeling anxious too. It has a way of showing up that way. How does it, so a little going further, how do you find, Amanda, that it impacts us or shows up, like when you see people with anxiety or pressure, or even yourself?
It holds them back from taking risks that they're equipped for.
Yeah, agreed.
Today I'm thinking, for example, a day in the life of me. I'll teach today. I taught 3 classes: a running class, a cycling class, a strength based class, and I have private clients as well. It's been a full ass day. Every day is a full ass day, and I'm very grateful that that's my business. And one of the ways it shows up is they start to tell themselves that they can't handle the thing that they are capable of handling, whether it's picking up heavier weights or increasing the speed on their treadmill by point 0.1 or what have you. How about you?
Yeah, I think a big place it's showing up that didn't exist as much 10 years ago is social media's impact, right?
Yep.
Like it is a lot of anxiety and pressures we're putting on runners and fitness enthusiasts and others because of social media and because of this. Others are doing this, others are running this, others are this. I need to be that, right? And I think you hear it all the time with running coaches who if they don't have a fast marathon time or a BQ, how can you coach someone who
Mm,
does these things? And so then all of a sudden, not only does that narrative incorrect and ridiculous, but all of a sudden a narrative gets passed around, and all of a sudden then this athlete is like, oh well, I have to run it in this race. I have to go do a marathon. I have to run this time, or like I'm not a real coach. Not only is imposter syndrome showing up, but also like anxiety and pressure on trying to perform to some arbitrary thing that means nothing because social media has deemed it important. And the sharing of a journey is great, but I see so often people sharing it and getting anxious about it, and saying they don't want to share certain things like their numbers or their running or their results because like they feel like if others saw it they would judge. you know they feel like it's putting anxiety and pressure on them to perform at a higher level because they're sharing it. I have this workout. I only have to do it at this pace, but I'm going to share it on social media. And I talked about it all week. So now I have to run it faster. And, you see that very often in how people write. It's very easy to read someone's caption and really see what anxiety and pressure is showing up based on how they're explaining their workout, their race, and what happened. And, it's sad because 10 years ago, that person might have run that race and run an amazing time or been so proud of themselves. But now, because there's this audience, it could be the world or it could be their, a couple thousand followers, whatever it is, who sees it. Now we're all of a sudden we're adding this extra layer of we need to perform, we need to show up, we need to be here every day, grinding every day, showing how much we care about this because everyone else is doing it.
yes. I think a while ago I had somebody ask me about, they didn't know me, but they had asked me about what I was training for. And I'm like, I
Life.
didn't say this to them. No. I said, I don't fucking work for you. Like, I don't work for you. It's my business, right? And I think that we want to share with the people in our lives what we're up to, and that's a really beautiful thing, but at what cost?
Mhm.
So I encourage folks to be proud of what they're doing and to don't be humble about it. Share it on social media. You deserve to be celebrated, but it has to come from a place of I'm doing this for me
Yes.
and not for the clicks or the coin. It's, well, maybe the coin. It depends on what it is. It
Yeah,
depends on.
we deserve that coin, but
No, but the clicks and the views and the likes and the comments, like I see people all the time, and some of them I follow who are, doing high rocks and 4 marathons in the year, and they're sharing it in on their Tuesday transformation. Look at me now. Look at me now. Look at me now. Look at where I was. Look at me now. And who are you doing that for, man? Who are you doing that for? If it's for you, if it's genuinely for you, one, I hope that you are working with a whole team of professionals because your body is going through it. And I would not have you on my roster. But nevertheless, I see in their comment section, wow, you're such a badass. You're so tough.
Yep.
You're just getting started. What? No, they need to sit down, is what they need to do. They're just getting started. They just need to sleep.
Yeah.
Like they just need
a bagel with cottage cheese.
With cottage, yeah. If they want cottage cheese, I want them to have cottage cheese. But I don't. What you're saying earlier, there's just such a strong aroma of comparison culture that social media has cooked for us.
Yep, mixed with the side of hustle culture, and it's there, right? And yeah, I dead on. You need to do it for you. If you want to share your journey, share your journey. If you're sharing your journey because you think it'll get more likes, I don't know. Like, I
It's not for me, dog.
It's not for me either. And like you could say it's for your business, and that's fine. But like, if your business is also performing in athletics, just be mindful that you could be also adding extra layers of anxiety and pressure on yourself while trying to promote your business, because that's what Instagram is now. Now while your business may be thriving, your performance may be the antithesis of thriving, which is, I don't know, not thriving. And instead,
nose diving.
Oh my God, I love it. And so your performance may be suffering, is probably the better word, because you are, putting all this extra stuff on it that doesn't need to be there, because it's already hard enough to will your body.
Like cottage cheese, you don't need to put it on it.
You're trying to will your body to do something it's never done before, and you're also adding all this extra sauce on it, and it's just going to be really hard. So just be mindful of
terrible.
How,
it tastes terrible.
how you add these things that are already hard enough and make it worse, right?
How, when you have as a coach Nick,
Ooh.
when you see an athlete going through it, what do you suggest?
Yeah, I think first is finding out what it is, right? A good coach doesn't just, I try not to assume, oh, well, they're struggling for this or that. Like it's getting to the bottom of it, right? Like everyone has baggage, is okay, is the right word. I mean, everyone has baggage. They come in. It doesn't always have to do with sport. Like you could carry baggage from real life that shows up in sport, because you are literally the same person in athletics that you are outside of athletics. And if you're this way outside athletics, it's going to show up in sport in your reaction to things that happen. And, maybe you're just struggle with change, or maybe you struggle with like a plan adapting, and all of a sudden your plan's adapting and you're like, I have to be perfect. I have to keep it the same. Like, so first step one is just trying to figure out what is going on. Why this extra pressure? I've worked with athletes who I found they wanted to run a marathon because they have to run a certain time so they can feel like a runner. Like I've talked to athletes who, are struggling with like feeling that place in their family and their life, and showing that their hard work and those mornings matter because, their family needs to see them achieve greatness. And I'm like, your family sees you trying. That's also important. Probably
family loves you,
yeah,
and doesn't care.
Yeah. So, but we're at
they care that you care about something so much.
Yes, and you have a place in your life that you can chase your goals, because everyone needs that. Everyone needs that little space that they can be creative in themselves. So it's really getting to the bottom, and then it's how do you adapt training, goals, life, running to it. I've had athletes go through panic attacks, and one of my first suggestions was, hey, why don't you not look at the watch times? Why don't you hide your watch? Why don't you not bring your watch? Why don't you throw your watch in the garbage? Well, not that, because like $800, but like throw it in some room that you don't use it, like, and start just vibing and having fun. And like, if that, just run the work. You can use an old watch, a stopwatch that times, because my workouts, a lot of them are time based, so you can just click 2 minutes and go, and you don't know what pace you're running. You don't have to do it on a track. You just do it on the road, and after 2 minutes, you just look down. You're like, 2 minutes is up. Oh my God, I looked at it manually with my eyeballs, and it's up. Now I'll slow down. And you can just do that, and that's the workout. And you don't need to, like, your coach doesn't always need all your splits. Your coach needs you to remove the pressure and problems that are causing you to have struggles. So it is coming up with creative solutions, and it doesn't. Oh, there is no handbook for how do you solve pressure and anxiety for every athlete. You get to know them, you have
Hmm.
solutions, you work through them, you help them figure out what works best for them, you help them figure out if races are right or the race particular is right, and you just listen and just be there. And those things alone help your athlete get 90% of the way through these types of things and feel better than like all of a sudden just like giving some other solution or some bigger change that who knows if they need. Like, get to know them, understand them first.
Yeah, and it's totally normal to feel nervous before a race, before a fitness event, before entering a class, before a workout, and it's not a sign of weakness.
Nope.
It tells me that you care.
Yep.
I wouldn't shove these feelings down, but rather figure out how to use those thoughts to drive your body forward.
Yeah. I always say if you have butterflies before a race, it shows you care. If you have so much that like you can't function or like you're struggling to get through, then that's too much, right? But a little level of caring shows you care. If you have no butterflies, then you don't care about it at all, and that's not good either.
That's true. That's very true. So it's information for you and as a fitness enthusiast, as a runner. And the goal is to utilize that information, those nerves, that anxiety, those fears, and take them as lessons, right? Not errors, not failures, lessons into how to approach the next thing next time. And having a team, having a personal trainer, having a run coach can help actually in telling you, am I being crazy for feeling this way, or they're just an ear, they're a soundboard. And what Nick was sharing before just tells you the type of coach Nick is, coaching the whole human.
Yeah, and like learn. So I sometimes, as you work with an athlete long enough, you can see these signs before they can see it, right? Maybe I'm a super empathetic person, but like if you've experienced an athlete and you
Ugh,
know, like,
same. I hate it. I
but
hate
have
it
you
so
seen
much.
like them go through this thing when like things happen in their life or like this time of year, like maybe they're a teacher and the end of the year is always rough and they're a goal oriented person, so they're ready to push through it. But you know, like this happens when stress goes up in their lives. Like help them that beforehand. Like they're so grateful that you are even saying like, hey, and this is this time of year. Like I have an athlete who always has an end of the month is fiscally tough for them because you know they're in the accounting world, and so we have made it so their down week will always be in the month. So instead of feeling like they have to pressure through that week when they're working extra hours and a lot of stress, well, now we've already adapted and we know every end of the month, like that should be a little lesser time for you. You can build that. Like, is that the perfect plan? Like, no, there's no perfect plan anyway, but like you make it work for
For
the
anyone.
athlete and you learn. And so that helped her take anxiety and pressure off herself to have to perform that week when her job is already being so demanding because got to make those profits. Or really just close the books and, you know, lie in them to make more profits, whatever companies do. I don't really know. Yeah. No names mentioned. But so yeah, like just learning that stuff about your athletes as as a coach is something you can do, and you if you help them beforehand, it helps them feel listened to, cared for, but also helps them be mindful around it to themselves. So like, wow, my coach is noticing this. I didn't really notice this thing about myself, but now I am.
I have no more anxiety.
We've
It's all been
we
alleviated.
fixed it. This is the point of the episode. I hope everyone leaves today with no anxiety until the next thing in their life happens, and then it probably brings it back.
3 exercises to eliminate your anxiety. That is the title of this podcast.
I might do that. Um,
I hope
that'd be
you
great.
heard it here first. Did we do it?
We did it. We did done it.
We done did it.
Yeah.
I wanted to say before we wrap this thing up, thank you to all of those who have shared our podcast with a pal, written reviews, suggested topics for us, specifically the good topics. I mean, if you suggested something that was not good, I guess good for you, bless you. But all jokes aside, we appreciate it. And we also had launched a couple of weeks ago a Buy Me a Coffee link, which exists in the show notes and on our Instagram bios. And we really appreciate any financial support that you've given us. So thank you so, so much for
Yes.
that. And
Thank you.
thank you for joining us. We hope you enjoyed this episode and that your anxiety just leaves your body and you're hashtag healed. Reach out to us at Between Two Coaches. That's TWO coaches at gmail.com anytime. And we will see you next time.
Bye.